welcome to this episode of The Martial Truth. I thought we'd change it up a little bit for this episode, and we're going to do a book review. Okay, the book I'm going to review is The Study of Karate and Miscellaneous Thoughts on Martial Arts by Morinobu Itoman, and it's translated and commentary by McKenna. It's available through Lulu Press, and I'll include a link in the bottom of the details, so you can go there. I don't know if you're familiar with Lulu. Lulu is basically self-publishing, so you order the book and they print the book and it comes to you in a few weeks. This isn't the first book I've ordered from them. I've ordered several. I've always been quite pleased. What's interesting about this book is it's very different from books that were published in the same time period as this book. While most of those books cover more of the philosophical and moral and emphasize maybe like showing pictures of kata, this book takes the opposite approach. Okay, this book, there are no photos of kata. Any of the kata in here. There's a list of the kata. He lists about 42 of the kata that he knows are being practiced at this time, which is the early 1900s. Okay, so this is in the early 1900s. The other interesting thing is Morinobu Itoman was a police officer. He was a police captain. He mentions in the book that he used his karate skills in his work, so he had a practical approach to karate. The quality of the photos in the book is what it is. I mean, you don't have existence, the original photos, so they're probably being reproduced based on an old copy of the book, which is fine. You can still see them. The explanations are pretty clear. What's good is the photos show a wide variety of techniques that we don't often hear discussed as much in karate, especially at that time period. Karate was being pushed in the public school system and being pushed to more of a group think, okay, and a sport aspect. He talks about that karate is offensive in nature. Very different from what we hear most other people say. Oh, there's no first strike in karate, right? But he says karate is offensive in nature, right? Also, a lot of the terms used in the book, you can tell, have much more of a Chinese flavor than the modern Japanese terms we're hearing. So it's very interesting in terms of that. You'll see throwing techniques, leg trips. You'll see choking techniques. You'll see joint locks in the photos. So wide variety, along with obviously all the different striking techniques. So he mentions the fact that there's 600 offensive and defensive techniques in karate. And there's a ton of photographs showing many different techniques. It's nowhere near 600, but believe me, there's plenty there. And again, it's fascinating to see because of the fact that already we had seen where they were trying to move karate in the direction of sport. And here's a guy basically saying the only way you can practice sparring safely is if you add rules which take away the effectiveness of the techniques. So now you're practicing ineffective techniques, okay? Or both people say, okay, we'll spar, and if one of us gets hurt, then we'll have to stop. And then it gets very dangerous. And then the other way is you spar, and if someone gets hurt, okay, well, then you stop, right? Or if someone gets seriously hurt. But again, this is why sparring has devolved into a more sport-oriented type of practice, right? Where you have a referee, he stops the match, he calls points. You're not allowed to kick to the groin, you're not allowed to strike to the back, okay? All these different things. Some now you can't foot sweep. So here's a guy who was in law enforcement who's saying basically that you have to practice karate basically where you're working on applications where someone attacks and then you're countering that application, and that's the only really way to work it where you can do it safe without either person getting seriously injured. Okay, this book here actually contains two books. Okay, so the first book is The Study of Karate, and then book 2 is Miscellaneous Thoughts on Martial Arts. So to give you an idea, so some of the chapters in the study of karate, book 1, development of combative techniques, history of Kempo, development of karate, things to bear in mind when learning karate, using the mind, will, and spirit in martial arts, offensive, defensive, and protective techniques, position of vital points, strategy, the way of opposites, obviously yin-yang theory, right? Techniques of cheating and deception, okay? And then when we get to book 2, book 2 is a little different. He's got chapters on sumo and Kempo, all right? How, the origins of a lot of these early arts come from sumo because it's one of the oldest arts in Japan. Judo and Kempo. Then chapter 3 is Okinawan Karate Jitsu, which he's got a history, origins of karate, the vital points. And then chapter 4 is Chinese Quan Fa. And he goes through a bunch of the different Chinese techniques in Chinese martial arts. And then some of the other chapters are Taiwanese Quan Fa and pancratium and boxing, which is a Greek, and obviously boxing is a Western martial art. So it's interesting to see the different topics. And as you read the book, you realize you're reading a book that's very different from other books on karate. They don't know if he had students. He didn't start his own style. There's really not a lot known about him. But I will tell you, this book was a pleasure for me to read because of the fact that it took such a different approach. And as someone who studies, two Chinese arts pretty seriously, a lot of the things he talked about was closer to what my Chinese martial arts instructors have been telling me, right? Which just shows you how far karate has kind of strayed from its original teachings in the last 100 or so years. Here's a guy who basically is saying, okay, this is what karate is and was supposed to be, and now we're seeing that karate's changing and going in a direction that it wasn't originally intended to go in. All right. Even the descriptions of some of the techniques and the way they're referred to are very different from what we see in a lot of the modern publications, or even publications that were going on at this point. Okay, again, the translation is excellent. There's a foreword by two of my friends, Joe Swift and Fred Los III. Fred and I study the same style of Kobudo, and I was lucky enough to have dinner with Joe and his wife when I traveled on one of my trips to Japan. So nice to hear and see what they have to say about the book in the front. And I just think it's an excellent, excellent book for people that are interested in karate and more of karate's origins and where it comes from. He talks about the fact about people traveling to China to try to learn the Chinese martial arts and understand, their karate or Kempo better than what they were understanding at that point. And again, for me, it was a breath of fresh air. If you look in here, if we go, you'll see, you can see here some of the photographs demonstrating techniques. These are throughout the first book. You'll see here different grappling techniques. Okay. So the book's excellent. It covers techniques, opponent armed with a small weapon, throwing techniques, low punches, defenses against high punches. It's just really, really an enjoyable book to read and see a kind of different philosophy to karate than some of the people who were writing books in the early 20th century, in the 1900s, early 1900s were. So again, I'm not going to beat this one to death. I'm going to keep this one a little short. If you like this one, let me know in the comments, okay? And if there's a book you'd like me to review, I have a pretty vast library. I plan on reviewing some other books in the future. This book, I highly recommend. when I read it, I really, really enjoyed it. And I took my time reading it. I didn't rush because I really wanted to absorb what the author had to say. And having read a lot of other books on karate and articles on karate, this one has a little bit different of an approach. And I want to commend Mario McKenna on the translation and the fact that he's brought this book to us in English. So for guys like Mario McKenna, who's a serious historian and someone who's translated several books, which you'll see they're available on Lulu, on the Lulu site, I highly recommend you purchase this book because, again, it enables then the author to do more work and possibly translate more books on karate that we haven't had access to because they've only been available in Japanese. All right. So in closing, if you like this one, please like, subscribe, and share. All right. And let me know in the comments if you want me to do more book reviews. Okay. And please go check this out. And it's well worth the money to invest in this book. All right. So again, the name of the book is The Study of Karate and Miscellaneous Thoughts on Martial Arts by Morinobu Itoman. And it's translated by Mario McKenna. And I want to thank Mario, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you enjoyed the book. All right? Take care.